Welcome back, weary travelers, to Recorder on the Wall. Recorder on the Wall. Divin tested, vermin approved. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Pete.
I'm Katie.
I'm Drew.
I'm Matthias.
Yeah, I almost cracked on that. That still makes me laugh for whatever reason.
What?
The Divin tested vermin approved.
I am proud of it.
Oh, no,
Now
you
we
should
just need to get a Badger stamp of approval now.
There we go.
But if you're just joining us, we are on the last portion of the book of the Long Patrol.
And if you're just joining us, go back and listen to books 1 and 2.
Yep.
Otherwise, you'll be spoiled.
What are you doing here? Go back in time. Go back in time.
Yes.
Morty!
Dun, 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 dun.
Copyright strike.
The sad part is it probably would be.
I was off key enough that we're good.
Yeah, we gotta change it a little bit. Bum, 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 wah, wah.
So
Right
when we
then.
left off in the story, the south wall of Redwall is apparently sinking.
The wall is sinking. The wall is sinking.
It's the end of the world as...
Or it's the end of the wall as we know it.
That's what I was going to say.
And apparently there's 1,000-strong vermin army marching towards Redwall, but I'm sure that's fine.
Everyone's gonna be just fine.
Strong is subjective.
Yeah. Compared to what
Well,
we see, yeah.
Mostly physically strong. We learn throughout this book that most of the vermin in Damag's army, including Damag on himself on occasion, are kind of dumb.
A little dumb, yes.
A lot dumb.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get to Damug's or Damug or however you pronounce it. His greatest moment of stupid shortly.
He has several,
Oh yeah.
to be fair. But...
I'm thinking of the skull moment.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Mm.
We left off with, yes, the southern wall is collapsing because it was being flooded from underneath. It's standing apparently over Kotir. Yeah, we've already known this. And there's a badger babe, and he's totally cute. And he steals the show in every scene he's in.
Yes.
So we actually begin this third part with Logalog Hishrus, Skipper and the Mossflower Holt of Otters, and Gurgen's Spearback and water hogs.
And some moles.
Yep, and Formal, Diggum, and their moles. And they're just trying to toss a giant rock into the stream that was flooding under Redwall.
And they do it. Yay.
Yeah.
I actually, my favorite part of this whole sequence of them working and everything is the end where we get the line, a short celebratory meal would have been appropriate, but the otters had eaten all the food.
Yeah.
So it's not just the hares who do it. Okay.
No.
Yeah, and it was totally, the way Jake's delivered that line was totally deadpan. Like, a short celebratory meal may have been in order, but the otter crew had eaten all the food. So.
So, well,
Right after it was, they drank what was left of the cordial and then went home.
Yeah.
And the
Wait,
moles complained. The moles complained the whole way there that it's unnatural to be on boats. I'd argue that it's even more unnatural to go about with tons of earth and rock over your head.
No, this is not the first time we've seen moles dealing with water. Poor old Grum, all the way back in Martin the Warrior.
That's still my favorite, where they're like, "Oh, you guys must have done that waterfall thing multiple times, right?" Nope, first time. Thump.
Yeah, although Arula from Salamandastron doesn't seem to bother her.
Oh,
water.
yeah, she was cool on the logboats.
Yeah.
And you know what? Dinny was good on the big pirate ship. He just wasn't
Yep.
good on the small ferry.
So there are some exceptions, but in general, yes, the moles are
Oh, yeah.
quite.
Especially
It's not
or,
ceasing.
or
What
in
is it, River
Bellmaker,
Sing?
where the entire book Formal's like, kill me now.
Yeah.
Hey, Formal, do you want some salted grayling jerky?
A simple
I,
would have been fine.
I do like that Brian Jakes never seems to be afraid of breaking the mold. Like, earlier I was like, there's spoilers. we were talking about named character deaths and how there really weren't that many in this one. I'm like, he doesn't really kill main characters. And then I thought of like 5 instances where he kills main characters. I was like,
yeah.
never mind. He does kill main characters.
Rose,
Just
Methuselah,
sporadically.
War, Warbeak.
Oh yeah, no, I've been and then I started listing them in my head and I teared up a little bit because I remembered a particular one. I don't think we've gotten to that book yet, actually.
What book is
book?
it from? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I know they were in, what was the Badger's old home underneath the tree?
Brock Hall.
Brock Hall.
Brock Hall,
Hall. They were in
Oh,
Brock Hall and
Triss.
it had been, yes.
Oh yes, that one's super sad.
Yep.
Well, I haven't read it yet, so something to look forward to.
I shall not
remember-
spoil.
I know exactly which one you're talking about. And yes,
Yeah.
it's very sad.
And that's how much it affected me, is even though I don't remember the name or I think I have a good idea of the species, but I will not spoil. It's still, I was like, I remember just bawling at that
Oh, yeah.
point.
I remember both because I'm a pedantic nerd, but I will not say anything.
Yeah, I bet. I swear to goodness. Yes, you are on my team for Redwall trivia.
The last joke we get in this section here is Formal's just like, nah, the moles are walking back.
Peace out.
Even if it takes 10 seasons. Screw you guys, we're going to walk on our own.
Well, I would walk 500 seasons. And then we get Midge Minicoats helping to craft Tamo's disguise.
Gentlemen.
Shush.
Aww. Fine.
But seriously, you can call him Midge Manycoats, cosplay extraordinaire. Please follow at mysterious at Manycoats.
I just assumed he found Mask's notes somewhere in Mossflower and went, this gives me ideas.
You
Yeah.
don't see this that often among the
No.
heroes, like putting on a disguise and walking right into the enemy camp.
This is
I'm
true.
trying to think of other instances where it happens, but I'm not.
Definitely. Oh, so Mask in Mossflower,
Mhm.
Brome in Martin the Warrior was
Oh
definitely.
yeah, yeah.
And they don't waltz into the camp, but when Mariel, Tarquin, and Ron Blade are on the pirate ship, how Ron Blade hides and Mariel kind of like motions to one of the other pirate ships, and they think she's another one of the pirates.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, I'm thinking of more like extended across several scenes of
Hmm.
disguise, which I think, unless I'm mistaken, which would be bad for my Redwall trivia knowledge credit, Mossflower and Long Patrol are the only ones that I can think of where like this disguise plot is kind of extended.
True. Yeah, because Brome is kind of quick in, get in, get out. Sort
Yeah,
of
it
thing.
might have been a couple scenes for Brome, but not like
Yeah.
Mask was, several, and this one is several.
Yeah, and Mask went on for a while, because first he tricks Fortunata,
Fortunata.
and then he eventually makes his way into Kotir. So yeah, that's
Yep.
definitely. I'm surprised they didn't use that more often.
Yeah, although I kind of like it. Like, I think if he would have used it too much, it'd be like, we'd be like, oh man, here we go again with the disguises.
Yep. Yeah, it is nice that it's special each time he uses it.
Well, if he used it too often, the vermin would be spy checking each other way too much.
Well,
And they'd get nothing done.
again,
Spy check.
Well, remember in Mossflower, Sarmina started doing that after Mask got away, where she had everyone
Yeah.
like kind of pull the whiskers and check everything on everybody.
Yes, but for some reason she
You're
didn't
right,
do
you're
that to
right.
Bane. Like, she just lets Bane come on in. She's like, not like, hey, let me pull your tail and your whiskers.
Oh yeah, and he's another fox. Like I'm surprised
Yeah.
she was willing to trust another fox so quickly.
Oh, the antipsychotic drugs kicked in that day.
I think at that point she was just like, if he betrays me, I'll kill him. They're all against me. The walls are against me.
Anyone hear
I'm
water?
not crazy. You're crazy.
I hear
know
water.
tripping.
Water, stripping.
Maybe her psychosis got so bad that she just did an overcount and it flipped back to normal.
Oh,
There we
okay.
go.
Well, back in the Long Patrol,
Yes.
Because we're way
Tangent.
off topic here. But yes, we have two disguised hares,
Yep.
and they're basically described. Midge is basically described. He's a generic vermin. You can't really tell which species he is at first glance, but no one's gonna give him a. No one's really gonna look that hard.
Yep.
Yes,
And-
and they frighten all of the babies.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Good job, guys.
And then Rockshell threatens to eat them.
Yep. And meanwhile, Cracklin gets the brilliant idea that she should have come up with like 2 books ago of, maybe the answer to the south wall falling is in our archives.
Okay,
thought of-
guys.
You
And
know,
they just someone opens the archive door and all the scrolls fall out.
all the dust flies out.
Yeah, I was thinking of Matthias. I was thinking of you as I was reading this. I was like, oh, your poor librarian heart right now.
Yeah.
It must be broken.
It hurt
Yeah.
bad.
What
As I saw this, I at least thought, you know what? Even though they don't think to actually look at this stuff very often, at least they keep it around.
Yeah, I guess.
You know, at least they don't go like, oh, it's like they don't go one of these learning expeditions end with, oh, you want Abbott Saxus's account of Grey Patch and his vermin? Yeah, we burned that for heat last season.
Oh no.
I mean, say what you want about Salamander Strawn's stone carvings when Badger Lords are tweaked out of their minds. At least they're preserved.
Yeah, they're literally written in stone.
You've got like one badger in there just with like a chip of stone as he's carving it in there. He's like, I'm never gonna forget this ever again, man.
They look over. There's just one big hunk of the wall missing. What happened here? Oh, that was Craig's portion.
Ah!
You know what? I
Ghost
think
told me to do it.
honestly, I think we figured out. I think we have a good explanation for why Craiga is so psychotic. She found the Bad Batch.
Ah,
Oh no,
Oh.
she's doing that synthetic stuff.
With, I was thinking more of when all the other ones go in there, you just hear. When she goes in there, you hear. Oh yeah, I'm gonna fight some vermin.
Oh yeah.
and that's why Salamander Strawn built a padded room.
What are these cracks here for? It's all part of her method.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
Da-da-da-da-da.
I approve.
Thank
Now, so yes, they are looking through the records and it's like, oh yeah, weren't we built on top of a castle? Oh, but hey, what happened to Shad? And I'm reading this from Cracklin says this. Oh, otters never make good scholars. Well,
That's
excuse
wow.
you.
Everyone's a little bit racist.
Says the recorder that didn't even know that the castle was underneath the building. Whatever.
It's true.
Isn't that supposed to be a part of your job, Cracklin? Knowing this stuff? No.
You'd think after she helped solve all the riddles and stuff in the previous book, that would have been like the prerequisite for her becoming the recorder. Like, oh, you're the smart one. You know how to read into things. No.
With Methuselah, at least the stuff was hidden. Like, he knew all about the history of Redwall, but he, the rhymes and such were, out of sight.
Yeah.
Cracklin doesn't have any excuse. She just hasn't been reading anything.
Yep.
I mean, granted, she's
and-
right that Shad did sneak off to play with Russ Snow and the Baby Owls, but
I just want to
Yes.
point out, if you read through as they're describing Abbess Germain and the founding of the Abbey,
Mhm.
Abbess Germain is referred to as the architect of the Abbey and not first abbess and architect or some similar designation. It's like calling her just architect is like calling Martin a sword mouse. It's a true statement, but it undercuts so much character. I was very disappointed.
The one thing I will give this book is it was written before Legend of Luke, which Legend of Luke is the only one to show Abbess Germain being alive while Redwall was still was actually mostly built. So maybe he hadn't thought of her actually being the first abbess of it at the time. That's the only thing I'm going to give.
Sure.
Otherwise, then yes,
I mean,
I totally agree.
I mean, even before Legend of Luke came out, she was pretty much ancient when Mossflower took place. So it is a fair estimate she could have died before the Abbey saw real completion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to give him a pass on that. Granted, I mean, let's face it, Legend of Luke created like a buttload of plot holes throughout the entire franchise.
Oh my lord.
So,
Where
You
are
get
the
a plot
horses,
hole.
Brian?
You get a plot hole, and you get a plot hole.
and then later on, Tansy, Cracklin, Buddy, Shad, and Formal fall down the plot hole.
No, they climb down it, right?
Oh yeah, they do climb. Okay, Skipper dove down the plot hole. Slowy fell down the plot hole. That was it.
Yep.
Yep. Something I like during this whole sequence is, even though obviously
Whole sequence.
well,
I get it.
I didn't even mean it like that. Huh. Accidental puns do not count towards.
All right,
pun
you can
counter.
use that. You can use that one more time, I suppose.
Yay!
Except for now, you can just claim that all your puns are an accident. I don't think I like this rule.
Come on, that's a whole lot of fun.
Stop stealing my shtick.
No.
Something I like during this is, even though obviously they are having Tamo go and everything, I like the touch of Paragord not wanting him to, because he knows that Tamo's he's a good kid, he's willing to learn, but this is kind of way out of his league, and he's not really ready for. He knows that Tamo shouldn't be ready for something like this.
And that's a callback to the very, very beginning of the book, where Tamo needed to be kind of pushed out the gates by, his mom and Rusa, and now he's just like, I can do this. I'm willing to go. I'm going to go.
Yep.
And you can't stop me.
It has been spoken by Martin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which
This dead guy said I could go, so
Yeah. Well, I
get
think,
it, Dad.
I think the reason why Paragord respects Martin's word is that with all the spiritual destiny stuff that happens at Salamandastron, it would actually make sense that he would see this as the correct thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which begs the question here is, how far can Martin see into the future?
Look into the future.
That
about
has
100
never,
pages.
Yeah,
Hey.
never really been made clear, like sort of the mysticism or the how
There is no free
predetermined.
will. Ah!
Yeah, it's like Martin just spouts, and you don't actually know where this knowledge is coming from, or if any rules govern it, like what rules he has to go by. It's just like, hey, I'm speaking to you in a poem.
Yeah.
What
Or
does he do in the
he's making-
meantime?
I'm thinking he's making bets with like Gonf or other characters. Like, hey, you could totally get one to do this if you say like this, Martin.
Martin's like, I can give this message to someone in their dream, and Gonf's like, that's boring. You always go into their dreams. Have him sleepwalk.
Yeah, get him up. Do it. Youngsters too lazy nowadays.
Also, I do have to point out, I'm sure that Tamo just loves the fact that they say his outfit was rolled around in a compost heap.
Yeah.
Both of the disguised hairs outright admit that they're not used to this level of stench and they can barely breathe through it.
And Rockjaw does his best to keep his distance from both and tells them to stay upwind or downwind from him.
Oof. Oof.
Like, Rockjaw, slow down. I can't stand you two.
It's kind of sad.
Go on.
Sorry. It's kind of sad that like before he's stuffing his face with red wall vittles because he doesn't know when he's gonna eat them again,
Yeah.
and that's sad.
Oh.
Meanwhile, the entire crew that went to the lake or the river comes back, and this is one of the funniest sections in the book, where they Log-a-Log, Skipper, Gurgen, and their entire army like burst into the kitchens. They're like, "We need food," and Buskell looks at them like, "There are babies sleeping here. Shut up." And then Gurgen goes, well, I'm sure if a lovely squirrel maid such as you serves us, that would be perfect. Whatever you can find. And she's like, okay.
And Longalong's like, hey!
Yeah, Longalong's like, you faker. Like, you're so full of it. And then they all start making noise and everything and start messing around with baby Russino. And then when they get yelled at, they all point to him and go, "'Twasn't us! It was him!"
And he's
Sure.
like, you can't yell at me. I'm a baby.
Hey, why is he rubbing his paws evilly and got a smile?
Yeah, blame the infant, like a 3-year-old blaming their baby brother for eating mom's cake while their own mouth is covered in chocolate and frosting.
It's like, it just makes me think of all the episode of The Simpsons where they're like saying that Bart's gonna get a younger sister, and he just imagines all these situations. It was the baby. It was the baby. Like the walls all drawn up. Baby did it.
So chapter art of 38 shows us Midge in his disguise, and it's like, huh, that's actually good looking.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
He literally tucks his ears underneath a cap that has fake vermin ears on top.
He looks like a Kingdom's Heart character.
He's a heartless.
Midge is part of Organization 13.
He's gonna pull out one of those blue popsicles.
And I like how he tells Tama, okay, you're not allowed to talk because you sound ridiculous.
I love it. I love
My
it.
voice isn't still cracking, is it?
Mr. Tomog, I'm gonna threaten you.
Yeah, give me your best impression. Yar, matey. Okay, your guy is mute. Anyway,
Yeah. But you also, once they get spotted, because Rockjaw's like, shoot, I'm gigantic and they spotted me.
Smoke bomb.
Yep. And you could see that Midge has done this before, though. Like, we get to see pretty much everybody on Paragord's team get to showcase their strengths. And now we finally get to see Midge's, and he's a great actor.
He is.
Oh, yeah.
I love too how he tells Tama, remember, you're dumb. And I was just thinking, I know the situation, the context in which Jake's meant dumb, but I'm just wondering how many little kids read this and thought that Tama was being insulted. Remember, you're dumb.
Little from column A, little from column B.
Yeah.
I could just imagine Trowbags here instead, where it's like, okay, you're dumb. Hey, don't insult me. No, I mean that you can't speak. I can totally speak. No, I mean you're not supposed to speak when we go there. Why not?
Shut up, Trowbags!
So Midge finally makes his way in. He gets past the guards by basically fooling them with parlor tricks. They're, hey, and then giving them free
Got
candy
your
chestnuts.
nose.
Yeah.
Free candy chestnuts, and like, hey, we like you.
Yep. And I like how them going into the vermin camp, it's seen through Tamo's eyes, where he's just completely overwhelmed by everything that's going on.
Oh, and
Yeah.
Midge, I love Midge's explain. Oh, that guy, I cut his throat, so he won't speak. Ever.
He
That's
used to call me
relatable,
bad
right?
names, so I stabbed him in the throat.
Hey, my fellow bad guys, is that what y'all do over here? Right?
Now I got this image of the Mos Eisley Cantina, where it's like, oh yeah, sure, yeah, whatever.
Midge stabbed first.
Yes.
You know, watching Midge's performance as a seer makes me wonder, how many of the vermin seers from this series were just play acting, and how many actually saw things? Because we know some of them were fake, like Sella, but some of them were legit, like Manggis.
And Nightshade too. I think she said, like, I follow my visions.
Yeah. And as we'll see in Tagarung, there's a couple in that one too.
Mangoes.
Mangoes.
Mangoes?
Why would you use a fruit to try to see the future?
It's fermented fruit. That's why.
Oh, okay.
They were just trying to copy the way the Badgers do it. it went wrong.
So I do love Damag's first reactions like, "Hey, you're not rapscallions." "Oh, I totally was before you were born. I served your dad. Gorman, that was it, right?
Didn't you have a
And,
brother?
Yeah, where's he?
Where's he got to these days?
Oh, I killed him. I mean, he died in combat. Yeah.
Well, he did die in combat, technically.
Yeah.
This is true.
But yeah, Midge is like, oh, Midge outright places. Yeah, I'm a seer, so you hiring? Yeah, sure.
I can see the future. This is my buddy. He should totally be allowed to go around freely. And I'm sure you won't have any problem with that.
No, not really. And Dominic's just like, hey, no one gets to harm these guys, okay? And I'm sure no one will abuse this.
3,
rule.
2, 1. Tamo gets knocked over and somebody takes his dirk again.
How often does this happen?
This is like the third or fourth time at this point. One of those times was Skipper.
I love how his mom's like, don't let anybody steal this dirk. And he's like, fine. And then you've got the Always Sunny music like. Tamo gets his dirk stolen.
Let's see. It was taken by the 2 ferrets at the beginning.
Yeah.
Then when he is captured by the painted ones, I think the painted ones take it. And then Skipper grabs it when he dives in to save Slowy. And now random jerk number 5 at the Vermin camp takes it. That's 4 times.
It's a completely unnamed Vixen character who dies shortly hereafter.
Who then gets bashed over the head because all the guards are like, you're not supposed to mess with him. And Wrinkle just gets his butt kicked too.
Wrinkle the Ferret, I almost feel sorry for him if he didn't have killed Russa. Because this poor guy runs into Tamo, gets beaten up by the guards for coming close to Tamo, and this happens a few more times. And you think he'd have the sense to say, hey, maybe I should just walk away.
No, he keeps messing with him. It's like, you're the dumbest person in the room, dude.
Yeah.
I shouldn't mess with that guy. I'm going to mess with that guy.
Well, you at least have to admire his tenacity, if nothing else.
Yeah.
He likes that, or he likes a good beating.
Meanwhile, in the next chapter, Migo, Damag's like, tell me something, Migo. And Midge is like,
okay, Midge.
I see your horde getting its butt kicked at Salamandastron, and then Damag gets pissed. Apparently, that's a soft spot for him. So he starts strangling him. And look, dude, just because he isn't part of your horde doesn't mean that Vermin HR still isn't watching, okay?
Yeah.
Midge kicks him in the eye to break the hold.
And Damag's like, I can't rub my eye; it would show weakness. So I'm just gonna sit here randomly blinking as my eye tears up. Midge tells him like, the answer is inside your skull. And so Damag takes off his helmet, which has a skull on top of it, which they have mentioned multiple times, and starts feeling around his own head.
Yep.
And then he yells at Midge and says, do you take me for an idiot, even though he's the one trying to check inside his own skull?
Maybe.
Jesus. And then finally, when he starts freaking out and kicks over the helmet and something pops out of that skull, Midge is like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
And thankfully, Damag is dumb enough to buy the whole thing, hook, line, and sinker. And it's like, oh yeah, suddenly I completely believe everything you have to say.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then he's like, tell me more. And he's like, all right, well,
Tomorrow.
I need a break. And
Break?
so then,
In my horde? Fine.
yep. Meanwhile, Tamo finds the prisoner, and Wrinkle is following him, and he sees a bunch of guards and goes, I have an idea. And he tackles Wrinkle, starts making like yelping noises, and so the guards come over and start beating Wrinkle again.
How many times do we have to keep teaching you this lesson, old man?
I love how they're
very
like,
clever
don't
of
worry,
Tamo.
we won't report you to Damag, but we are going to beat you up.
No,
Yes.
please report me to Damag. No more.
Oh my God. It's like Wrinkle. The last group of guys that pissed off Damug got drowned in a river.
Oh,
And he did say that he was going to devise a crueler way to deal with the next batch of misbehaviors. That's not the word I wanted, but that's the word I said.
Yep.
Miscreants.
and you
I don't
gotta
know.
know Tamo's enjoying this because he can see Wrinkle has Russ's stick.
Yep.
Yeah.
He wants it back.
He has the precious.
So Midge and Tamo get shoved into guest quarters, which are actually pretty nice.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, say what you want. Tamo has some sense of hospitality. So.
Yeah. He treats his guests very well when he's done strangling them.
Yeah.
And we then go back to Redwall, where they find out that Redwall itself was built on top of Kotyr's exact location.
Sort of.
Sort of, like a little bit to the side. Here's a thought. Why wouldn't they try to avoid the giant sinkhole lake when constructing the Abbey?
Well, from what we read, sorry, Katie, I'll let you in just a sec.
You were probably going to explain what I was about to explain, so go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. Basically, we read that the started with the north wall, well and away from the then lake, but by the time they came to the other walls, the lake that had been Kotyr was drying up and sinking anyway.
And seasons had passed, like a really long time had passed.
Well, I mean, I get that part, but like, why did they even start anywhere near it? Like, why not find a completely different location in the forest to start building instead of like, let's just stay as far away from this area as possible?
But the only reason I could think is that the area is already cleared of trees. Number one.
True.
Number two, you have a ready water source, even if it's kind of corpsey from the battle.
Found another one.
And arguably, we don't know how much of Kotyr was left above ground after the flooding. They could have folded some of those older stones into their own foundations. I mean, you have the stones right there instead of quarrying brand new ones from the quarry, then transporting them all the way.
This is true. I mean, I think Germaine did mention that some of the stone that she noticed the sandstone in Kotyr. Yeah, I just think it's slightly poor planning on their part. Like,
I don't disagree with you. We do find out where the Abbey south wall kind of crossed over what was the northwest wall tower of Kotyr.
Yeah. I think I would have bought it a little bit more if it was a different generation of Woodlanders that were doing it rather than the same people that knew the thing was there in the first place. And
Well,
it also just, I mean, granted, this does fall in line with the rest of the generations of Redwall that completely forget things that happened before them anyway, but...
Yes, it could be bad records. It could also be that, like, maybe the next generation were the ones who are building the final wall. Although that doesn't...
Legend of Luke rears its ugly head again.
Right? Although that doesn't really explain how the overall plans from the beginning didn't take that into account. So, I don't know.
Or it could have been Martin doing one more on his old enemy and saying, "This is mine now."
I can buy that. You think also they would have been like, all right, we finished flooding the place. Let's stop everything up again so it doesn't keep destroying the area.
Yeah.
You know what? I wonder. Oh wait, no, they did say they unsunk Wud ship, right, in Mossflower.
Right. Which is
Yeah.
That would have been hilarious in this one. They're like, yeah, we found a ship under there too. What the heck is up with that?
Now I'm just picturing like people asking, so Martin, why again would you like to build Redwall over where Kotyr was? And you could just be like, symbolism, it's symbolism.
Just stand there, mine,
Yeah.
mine. Martin's like, I've been hit in the head like 18 million times. Do you really expect anything different? They figure it all out and they're like, all right, let's go down there. And
wait, what? Why
Yeah.
are we going down there when there's a huge army coming our way? Aren't we having in the middle of another crisis right now?
better
Treasure!
yet, why are they not telling anybody that they're going down there?
Yeah, that's the dumbest part, actually.
Yeah, like, fine, you want to go down there because, the battle's not going to happen over here. None of you are warriors. Shad is strong, but I'm sure one otter won't make the difference. But at least tell people you're about to go spelunking into an unknown area underground with only one mole.
Yes.
And the cook, because I'm sure Buddy has long-term experience on this.
No,
All
no, no,
right.
no, no. You see, they're going and they're not telling anybody because they don't want to worry them. It's because they're thinking of everyone's best interests.
Ah, yes. Don't
mean-
want to worry anybody.
I mean,
As
this-
far as Viola's concerned, this is her best interest. That means she gets to act as Deputy Abbess and has power.
Actually, what I wrote was, so when everything does collapse and get trapped, I wrote, well, it's a good thing they told the other Redwallers what they were doing. And, oh, right. Hey, Viola, you're Abbess now.
Yeah.
Yes, she actually planted the charges that collapsed the tunnel.
Fire the hole!
What was that big rumbling sound? Nothing.
Why is there smoke coming from that ominous hole we dug up?
No reason.
So meanwhile, though, when they go down, they find the remains of Kotir and even find something that Verdaga himself carved into the wall.
Look, he
He
got
made a
very
poem.
bored. I'm sorry. He got very bored when ruling this country, apparently.
He's like, look, I know my crazy daughter is going to try and murder me one day. I might as well hide my treasure so somebody who's not insane is going to find it.
And I left
Well,
it all in one piece.
Oh,
Dreaming, don't give it up, Luffy.
no. None of that. Shame on you, sir.
So they go down there. Surprise, surprise, the roof falls down.
I'm okay.
Crunch. I'm not okay.
Ow.
And you know what? Shame on Formal. He should have been able to identify load-bearing walls. It's like,
Yeah,
That's a load-bearing poster.
kind of professionals is
welcome
this
back
Abby
to
hiring?
this old lobby. I'm your host, Formal Vila, and today we be knocking down these walls here.
This is more like Full Man the Toolman Taylor, actually. Formal's like, you know what this needs? More power. Smash.
Before we get to this, I do want to mention they are using Tamalak the Owl to be their eyes in the sky while they're trying to find a place to not let Damag come to the Abbey, where their southern wall is already compromised. And I think someone wrote in their notes, it wasn't me, that he's an honorary heir for how sassy he is.
Yeah.
That was
Yes.
me.
Well, I don't want to steal your thunder, so by all means.
Oh, Tanak should be an honorary heir because he certainly got enough sass and sarcasm to be one.
There. But we were about to
I don't
skip
know
over
what that
it.
accomplished.
We were about to skip over it. I didn't want. That was a good joke. I didn't want you to not have it. Anyway, in the hole. Hey, we found the carving from Verdaga, and apparently he's a decently good artist because he's carving little scenes of violence.
Well, we don't
And
know
he's a
if
good
he
poet,
put all that
sort
in.
of.
It's kind of like the anti-tapestry down there.
Yeah.
He got very bored.
Yeah.
This
But
was a
apparently-
result of the first set of drugs that Sarmina and Fortunata gave him, and Sarmina's like, these didn't mostly kill him; they just made him crazy and start drawing on walls like a mental patient.
I mean, it was kind of fun to watch, though.
I thought I
it did
told you
apparent-
to make him die. I thought you said make him high.
But apparently, all that stuff in his veins turned him into not only a good poet, but also really clever at making puzzles. Because it turns out that poem he left was an acrostic that spells out treasure.
Yep.
Yeah, not very subtle.
Do you think any of his vermin enlisted or officers would have been smart enough to put it together?
No.
Well, I mean, I
No.
doubt they're literate to begin with, but
You know what? This is true. He probably was like, okay, no, only my two children are going to be smart enough to read this in the first place. So,
And we're
His
told
science.
outright that this riddle was found underneath basically what would have been a wall hanging, so it's not obvious
yeah, it wasn't
And-
hanging out in the middle
in
of
the available.
everywhere.
Gee, a riddle hidden behind what would have been a tapestry.
Jakes, you hack.
Gone, you hack.
Yeah.
Uh,
But so I mean, yeah. What could he? maybe one of his officers might have put it together, but yeah, more likely one of his kids would have done, and I doubt his son would have cared.
I mean,
And
let's
the
look at it-
daughter, maybe.
Yeah, well, let's look at it this way. Brog, who was like the second in command at Saramina, gets taken out because he's too dumb to realize that a boulder is flying straight at his face.
Okay,
And
on
he
note.
was one of the smarter people in that castle.
Sorry, my dog was thumping her tail against my filing cabinet, which is not going to sound great on a podcast, so I need to banish her. Lie down. You're fine. There we go.
Vanished.
Banished.
To the Shadow Realm.
Wait, what?
4Kids references everywhere.
You activated my track card.
So, meanwhile, in the next chapter, speaking of dumb henchmen, we have Bluggatch, who's like, tell me a riddle, Mr. Migo. And Midge is like, well, what goes blargle snarf snarvel bark blark? Oh, what is that? Your guys over there drowning themselves in the lake on accident. Oh, that's funny. Hey guys, what goes blargle snarf like you guys? Bet you don't know the answer.
I gotta say the voice actor for this is fantastic because first of all he like bursts out laughing. He's like, I don't know the answer. Tell me the answer. It's just so funny.
When they leave, he's like the guy that goes, which way did they go, George? Which way did they go? And then speaking of being bored, Raksha is officially bored because now he's counting all the arrows that he has. He's sitting there like, well, I should rub some more beeswax on my bowstring. Raksha, you have more beeswax than bowstring now. I am very bored. I have nothing to do.
Well, maybe hopefully a lovely colony of bees will come along and build a hive in your bow, and then you'll have an endless supply of honey. And give you a chance to be
Woohoo!
the apiarist you always wanted to be.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he could use the bees on his arrows and then shoot arrows with bees attached to them.
I mean, that works too.
Meanwhile, Lady Krieger Rose-Eyes is lost. Very, very lost.
Good job.
She's gone all night, driven by the boiler breath, and she basically falls over asleep with her tongue hanging out.
Yep. So let's count off now what Krega has done since leaving Salamandastron. She has charged ahead of everybody. She has verbally yelled at some of the runners, I think, at this point. And now she has not only wandered off and left everybody behind, but she's also gotten lost and passed out. And now we found that there's a bunch of murderous rooks around that are getting ready to eat her.
Yep.
Yes, this murder of Rooks is planning a murder.
Just slow clap for
that's
this. Good job. Good job.
And if Krega was in a video game, I would be wondering if she, being injured, is seeing a red UI around the edges of her vision that says close to death, and maybe boop, boop.
She's hearing the Zelda like beep 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 beep.
Yeah, something
Fluttered
obnoxious.
Meanwhile, her long patrol hairs are trying to find her.
Yep.
It's like,
Meanwhile, Trowbags is being more useful than Krega. How
How
does that make? I wonder how that makes her feel.
oh.
Trowbags is a sweetheart. What do you guys have against Trowbags? I mean,
I
he's
have
kind of
nothing
dumb.
against him. Like he's actually like. There's a point here where he like finds tracks or does something actually useful, which is he's being portrayed as like the recruit that has no idea what he's actually getting into.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But he has his little moments here and there, like helping Shangle Widepat when he hurts his foot and
Mhm.
things like that. And so, and it even does enough that they take him with them when they go search for Krega. So, and you know what? At least
Boy.
Trowbags doesn't wander off and literally get himself almost eaten.
Yes. And I just gotta say, when the hares charge in to attack the rooks, it just reminded me of the scene in Lion King where Timon and Pumbaa like charge in to attack the
Lord.
Is she still alive? I don't know. Someone poke her.
Although, if I can be serious for just a moment,
Oh man.
I thought
Okay.
you were Matthias.
sorry, I want to bring everybody down. It's a contractual obligation here. If I don't do it, the union will get mad.
Okay.
Podcast HR.
Yes. But going through, looking back at this description of her experiencing blood wrath and the effect that it has on her,
Oh yeah.
I'm reading it for the first time in so long, and I can truly appreciate how terrible of a condition it is. Going back to what I was talking about last episode, the World War I influencers are so strong here, and when combined with some measure of mental illness, it portrays the likelihood that Brian heard stories of somebody who fought like this
Yeah.
and used that as inspiration. What the guys who fought in World War I went through on both sides, it was the worst imaginable circumstances. And to have somebody so at the end of their rope that all they have left to do is grip this weapon, empty, no bullets left, yell and charge at the enemy, hoping for a swift death.
Hmm.
So it's like, now take out that death wish and replace it with a death wish on everybody else. And yeah, when we read about it, it's like, oh yeah, awesome. But at the same time, there really is something fundamentally wrong with the mind of the person that's fighting.
I
Yeah.
think
And
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I really liked Elbrig's description of blood wrath when Traubags asks him about it, and he's like, you know what, you have every right to know what we're dealing with. And yeah, just the way he describes it, and you realize that you see it's, I mean, we've seen that it's bad for both sides. Like, while we see Badgers like inflicted with this like just tearing through people, we see it from the other side of, one, they're usually almost getting themselves killed. We have moments of like Sunflash and Earthstripe.
Earthstripe
Um,
actually got himself killed.
Yep.
Mhm.
If Earthstripe had actually just kind of stayed where he was, he might have actually survived by the end of that book. Or you have Ron Blade going completely in like postal on an entire ship.
Hmm.
You have their allies that have to deal with the aftermath of that in every way. Like, even the Hares and Mariel of Redwall, after they find what Ron Blade did, even they're horrified.
Hmm.
Or like the entire Long Patrol running out to try to save Sunflash after he recklessly runs out and almost gets himself killed. Same thing with Earthstripe. They had to unblock the mountain and let Farago's army in just to get Earthstripe off the front line.
Hmm.
Yeah, they actually explained it in book here that blood wrath is a sickness more than anything. It's a terrible sight to behold. Basically, imagine hating an enemy so much that if he had 10,000 on his back, you charge at him and destroy that many to get him.
Yep.
Mhm.
And no real spoilers, but we kind of see that in a little bit, like near the end at the final battle.
Yeah. He doesn't glorify it either. I
No.
think that Jakes has a very neutral view of violence as a way to resolve issues. The Abbey's always on the defensive. And
Yeah.
even though Salamandastron is typically seen as a military unit, it also is almost always on the defensive. And only in this book did actually sally forth, and it wasn't necessarily even to save Redwall, but it was to destroy these creatures. And they pay for it. Like they pay for it by the end of this book. And even if they win, yes, no spoilers. But even if they win, they're going to lose people. And
Yeah.
it sucks. And Jakes makes sure you know that it sucks. Like, they're not like, yeah, dudes. You know, at the end of the last chapter of the battle, they're not like, glory to, Salamandastron. We've done it. No, it's like, okay, count the injured real quick and feel blessed for still being alive right now.
Yeah. Basically,
Yeah, this is in
war-
300, essentially, where
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, we're going to go out fighting, man.
yeah, this is more of
macho.
war is awful, and it doesn't stop being awful even when it's over.
Yep.
Mhm.
And Traubag's reaction, I think, is really good, where at first he's just completely shocked by the description. And then I almost think he says this kind of nervously, like, well, it's good that we have this blood wrath on our side, right? Right?
Yeah.
And no one responds. Basically, they
Yeah.
just ignore him.
Mm-hmm.
And he
I
continues.
wish-
I mean, I think that's a very good way to show his inexperience. Like he's trying to think of a positive spin on this. Like, well, at least that's on our side and not on the other one. And Elbrig is thinking, it's not really on our side.
No, it's on
Yeah.
nobody's side.
It's
Oh,
the
God.
Incredible Hulk in the MCU. You can point him in a direction. You best hope that's all he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Sun's getting
and,
real low, Craiga.
My folks, I've gotta go.
Oh no.
Oh,
Aw. Okay.
Well, do you
don't
want
leave
to
us!
give any key opinions you want to get before you have to go off?
I think that Traubag at the end of this book should have become a farmer at Camp Tussock. I think that would have been dope if he realized that he wasn't really a fighter.
Yeah.
I like that.
Tamo is bestest boy, very good. Glad he gets married, although Jakes tends to just do that. Their romance was basically the whole thing with Tamo and Pescu.
Pass.
Pass.
Pascal.
Yeah, sure.
Pascal.
Pask was like, he sees her, she sees him, and they're just like,
I can see
is this happening? I can see what's happening.
What?
what?
They don't have a clue.
Oh!
Ooh.
They'll
Thank
fall in love, and here's
You want to stop that before I break down the lawyers?
Oh, no, Mickey, no!
Can you hear the lawsuit tonight?
We're sorry, it was just a small podcasting group.
Okay then.
This book is great. The conclusion is great. I love every single one of you.
Aw.
Aw.
Oh.
I really do. You guys are amazing.
Well, I mean, it's
We
almost
love you
Valentine's
too.
Day.
What'd you say?
It's almost Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day.
Happy
Yeah.
Valentine's Day. And we also love the viewers like you.
Yes.
All
Thank
our
you.
listeners. Thank
We
you.
love you. Now give us 5 stars.
Yeah, give us break your leg. We will come to your house personally, and I will sing the entirety of the 4 Kids One Piece.
That's gonna give us 1 stars. Stop.
1 star for One Piece.
But Pete, here's how the story goes.
No.
Find
No.
out.
Okay, Drew, you can leave now.
Oh, Drew, get out.
See you, Drew.
Hi, Drew.
Bye, Drew.
Bye.
Meanwhile, at the Legion of Doom, Wrinkle is a moron. He's
Oh,
like,
but
I don't like those guys. I've been told not to mess with them. I'm totally going to continue to mess with them, even though my boss is a psychotic murderer.
I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
Midge then pretends to try to turn him into a toad.
Yes.
And it's hilarious.
Yep. And Damog is even like, could you have really turned him into a toad? That's for me to know.
I mean,
Just-
it's just a joke, right? Right?
Just asking for a friend.
I do want to mention we touched on this briefly, but in diff real quick, we do see before this happens, Krega is being set on by a massive group of rooks and crows, and she gets help from her long patrol hares, but she murders them all.
Yep, and
All the
she's
rooks,
like,
not the hares.
I'm okay. I could drive.
Yeah. Hey guys, get a stretcher.
I'm all right. I've just got a speech impediment and an inner ear infection.
But yes, they basically take her back to.
Yeah. So, and Midge basically has Damog in the palm of his paw,
Ha ha ha.
He does.
and Damog is like, "How many are there numbers? Like, there's only 300 of them. Why don't I just rush over them now? Oh, fine, go pillage, destroy. Your band of idiots is going to destroy the place you're trying to conquer." And Damog's like, "You're not wrong."
Fair point.
And so Damog's like, "All right, 3 days, 300. Go to the ridge. All right. Sounds good. I'm going to leave these 2 random guards and just pick them totally at random. Oh, look, it's the comedy duo. I'm sure they'll be perfectly fine. They're in time for proving themselves. They're going to guard you.
And with that, Damag Warfang signed his own death warrant, not because he had brought into the lies of Midge Manycoat, but because he left that duo, Sneezewort and Lousewort, in charge of his prisoners.
Okay, DBZ narrator. Am I the only one who saw that? Like, he sounds like the narrator from Dragon Ball Z.
I'll take
Would
your
you
word
believe
for it.
I've never watched Dragon Ball Z?
Never mind.
Next time on Dragon Ball Z, Tamo's in the house. All right, then. That's the reaction that deserved.
Yes. So now he's just like, yeah, it probably makes more sense. I don't want to clear out my new castle. What am I gonna call this?
Fort
Damag. That works. And there's Clooney from the Dark Forest, like, Flame!
Rip off! At least I got inside. Yeah. So, meanwhile, back at Redwall, notice something. We haven't seen Arvin at all in book 3.
Yeah.
So, on that topic, as we're going back to the Diggum and everyone in the underground with their complete screw up, I kind of wish Arvin would have gone with them instead of Shad. While I like Shad throughout this entire section, I think this would have been a good chance to see Arvin, one, actually do something, but also adult Arvin go on an adventure with Tansy and Cracklin and Diggum and have like a nice callback to Pearls of Lutra.
Yeah.
Well, we do get a callback to Pearls of Lutra because Cracklin at one point calls Tansy Pansy.
Yeah. I love that.
I do like
Which
that.
is great.
Yep. But yeah, so we find out so Diggum and Shad are not buried under tons of rubble and immediately work to and save Cracklin, Buddy, and Tansy. And Shad is basically holding up the entirety of the rubble by himself so they can get out.
Yes.
Because Shad is awesome.
Swallotter.
He lives. So, and you know what? If you're going to get stuck underground, Formal is going to be the one you want.
I would agree with that.
I mean, especially digging out from a whole bunch of rubble, just dump it down on top of you. I mean, Cracklin's been knocked unconscious and may have a very minor case of very serious brain damage.
Yep, this is true. So, yeah, they get out. I do like the way it describes that the way Shad gets out is everything collapses and it fires him out like a torpedo and he just like rockets across the cave.
I'm
he's
okay.
Like, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay. Then everyone's like, that was awesome. I'm not doing it again. So they're having a fun time down there.
Oh, yeah.
Meanwhile, which I think that's basically it for chapter 44 is just them in the cavern, right?
Yep.
And we get, I love the Long Patrol hairs throughout this entire book, which is good because it's called the Long Patrol. Well, hey, we had a book called The Outcast of Redwall that had the Outcast in it for maybe 2/3,
Yes.
if that.
This is an improvement.
Yep. And we have like Paragord working with his team to tally up the troops, taking stock of personnel and weaponry. And I really like also the fact that the Redwallers had weapons stashed around, which would make sense at this point. Like, look, Clooney attacked us, Slagar attacked us, some random group of pirates from Ublaz came here. We should keep some weapons around just in case.
Yeah.
And you know what? And it shows that they're still peaceful. They don't keep the weapons out. The only one that's constantly being mentioned is Martin's sword, which they just don't want to lose that again. But they would keep this up just in case something like this happens again. And it's good because even Pask is like, yeah, we're actually pretty good on weapons. They have this suitable armory that we have complete access to. So, nice.
Yeah. Is this the most we've seen of like war preparations at Redwall? I know like Salamandastron, there's a lot of war preparations, but
I think so. Because like in Mariel of Redwall, we had the Redwallers just kind of trying to fight back on their own, and we did have the trio of Harris kind of giving them a quick little lesson, but mostly taking over everything by themselves.
Hmm.
And in Redwall, the book, we did have Basil coming into his own and like commanding the troops at Redwall and being like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. You know, first rank fire, where he like organizes them better. But this is the first time we've seen a lot more preparation in general. Like in Outcast and Salamandastron, we do get those scenes, but it's nice to see like the troop placement and ordering around and taking up tally of everything. Like it shows that I'm just gonna say this. I love Paragorn. He is awesome.
Yes.
He is easily one of my favorite hairs in the entire series.
Agreed. He even manages to hold off a very hysterical Viola, who's
Yep.
basically calling him out, saying, "Oh, you're being useless. Our evidence missing." Blah 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 blah. It's like, I'm going off and in charge of defending this abbey, leading these 300 people who are willing to die. Why don't you go and solve your own problems? And she just kind of leaves the house like, well, I never.
Yeah. Meanwhile, like she's giving him guff over not putting together a search team for 5 dimwits that didn't have the sense to tell anyone where they were going in the first place. So also,
but he's very polite about it though. Like
This is
he may
true.
have been thinking the stuff that Matthias just said, but he's like, begging your pardon, lady, but I don't see there's a lot that I can do right now.
yeah, he's like, I'm about to literally put all these people out there. I don't have time to mess with this right now. And also, I like the contrast of Viola freaking out to the scenes we get in the underground where Tansy is keeping a cool head. It shows why Tansy is the abbess and Viola is not.
Yeah.
Although Viola definitely likes her temporary stints in power.
But
Yes.
she's not very good at it though.
No.
No.
I didn't say she's good at it, she just likes it.
This is true.
She's that one middle manager everybody knows, but dreads having to work for and will try to escape their projects at all costs.
Hey, Arvin. What's happening?
Oh yeah, Arvin's back. Arvin sat on the side like, I don't want to mess with her. She scares me. But we
Well,
then get
He did make her sit in was it soup porridge in the last book? So
This is true.
Yeah.
She still holds
She's
that
probably
against
still-
him.
yeah, she still has bitter resentment against him. I will not let you forget this. I will never forgive you.
I could just picture them having like a discussion or an argument. Always Viola's last response is, "You made me sit in porridge. I win."
But so Paragorn organizes everyone, and I love his speech to like mainly the leaders, but he also speaks to the entire army. Like he's taken it upon himself to lead everybody, and he does it excellently. Like he knows what to say, he knows what to do, he knows the odds are against them, but he's like, look, we do this or it's all over anyway. Let's get out there and fight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love the finale of his speech where he says, as you know, we'll be outnumbered more than 3-1, but by Jingo, we won't be outclassed. We won't be outfought. And as long as I can stand with a saber in me paw, we won't be driven backward a single pace.
And I gotta hand it to the voice actor. He was excellent.
I'm just going to keep saying this. Paragorn is amazing. And the fact that he does all this like professionally too.
Hmm.
Like, and he even weathers the storm of Viola's freak out, which is excellent, which, as I think we've seen, not many other creatures can do.
Yeah.
And this entire sequence of them preparing to march off to war, they all know the odds and numbers are against them, but they're going because they are brave. They are perilous, as they like to say in this one. And if they don't fight, then all of Mossflower is doomed. And I like the turnaround of Viola at the end of the chapter. She softened and is like, look, I'm sorry I yelled at you. I understand what you're doing. Nobody could ever be mad at you that because you're going off to defend our abbey. That's not even your home.
Yeah.
This is, I like this Viola.
There is one other thing I do want to mention from this scene.
Mhm.
It's we're seeing newly minted fighters leaving their only home to fight a war that will almost certainly result in many of them dying. And that's clearly World War One. Leaving your sleepy little village to go fight for your country in a place that you've never been, never thought you'd be going to. You're some wet behind the ears, 18-year-old, 19-year-old. They put a musket in your hand, helmet on your head, and said, go fight. And the odds of you coming back are about as good as growing up to become Prime Minister of England. It's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, we even have like a couple lines from some, like even just like a nameless otter, because they're all told like, we know some of you have families. If you don't want to go, we'll understand. And this nameless otter says, look, I have a wife and daughter. I know if I don't fight, I don't want to know what will happen to them if I don't fight. Like, I'm doing this for them.
Yep.
This whole chapter is fantastic. I think even the song too, where it like instills like this feeling of everyone's bravery marching off to war.
Mm-hmm. I like all of the songs in this book. I really like them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Arvin is not completely useless here. Mother Buskull turned an old green tablecloth into a flag, stitched a red letter R on it, and gets tied to a spear point, and Arvin's waving it back and forth. So he's gone from sword holder to flag waver.
Yay, Arvin!
Yay! He's the flag boy. And yeah, I like how Buskull gives Paragord a new tunic.
Yeah. It doesn't last long, as we find out, but
True, but it's still nice. And he even said, like, he even thanks her. He's very polite with it too. He's like, I love it. I will wear it proudly.
and he gives his old one to the kids, and the kids are like, "Yay, me first!"
Yep. And I like how he quickly like takes charge. Like, no. You can each wear it one day. Each day, one of you can wear it. Slowy first. Very cute.
Yep.
Then the next chapter, we're back to Midge and Tammo dealing with Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Yeah, but the cover art for 46 is full of sadness and gory.
Yeah. It's spoiler in this one. Jeez.
We see a hare who's taken a spear wound and is basically sitting down with a bow and arrow.
Yep.
Oh, that is dark for a children's book.
Yep. And there's blood around the part where the spear is in his side too.
Hi, kids.
Yep. Thankfully, it's in black and white. But so Midge is like, all right, I have an idea. And he stands up and says, one of you should go get us some firewood. And so Sneezewort leaves, and Lousewort is left there alone. And apparently it was Sneezewort's turn to use the brain that the two of them share, because Midge says to him, like, hey, you have a crack in your spear haft. Where? Bam!
I can see the tabloid headline now. Lousewort, biggest idiot in Horde, Warfang calls for blood.
I will say, Lousewort must have a really thick head, because first they bash him in the face with the haft of the spear, which does not knock him out, and then Tammo smashes him over the back of the head with the handle of his dirk, and that finally knocks him to the floor. But then he gets up like 2 minutes later, and the book even says, Lousewort had two things going in his favor: an extra thick skull and remarkable powers of recovery.
Yes.
I'm okay.
I think it has to do with the fact that he has a little bit too much cotton in his head and not enough brain. It makes for really good padding.
But ultimately, our Wart twins, they look at each other like, yeah, Damon's gonna kill us, right? Yeah. Well, who's up for going to Tahiti? It's a magical place.
Let's go join Vermin HR. I hear they need more bodies.
Yes.
No, let's take a vacation. A cruise to San Petra sounds lovely this time of year.
Oh, yes. And I just gotta say, like, this is a happier fate than vermin usually get in the series.
It kind of makes me think of Brome sparing Wulp in Martin the Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
where like just a relatively harmless villain gets to escape.
Yep.
Like these two, I mean, they're villains, but I don't know, they're kind of likable.
A little
Well, it's because
bit.
they're idiots.
Yeah.
They have no brains between them. They're those two guys, as the trope is called, and they're not so much there as to cause trouble as to be a minor inconvenience when the plot demands it.
Well,
Yes.
the two of them remind me. I referenced these two in the previous one. They remind me of Salt and Pepor from Chrono Cross, where you fight them. You quote unquote fight them a couple times in the game. The very first time you fight them in the game, it's essentially them teaching you how the combat works by screwing up. And like even when you fight them, you get goofy music playing in the background. So I like Sneeze Wart and Louse Wart. And so yeah,
And by the
Midge
end of this, they're on a beach somewhere sipping tropical drinks.
Yeah.
So Tammo and Midge go to I can't remember the squirrel's name. Fordun.
Fordun? Yeah, Fordun.
And they free him and they run for it. And Tammo, after seeing Wrinkle rushing after them, throws a spear so hard that it almost goes completely through Wrinkle. Wrinkle's corpse then trips and then tumbles down a hill to drop in front of them.
Oh, that's not gonna heal over well.
That good for you, Tammo. That was awesome.
Workman's comp, please, please.
Yep. But
Just to remind you, this is a children's book.
Yes.
yeah. And then Rockjaw like pries the stick out of Wrinkle's frozen dead hand. So, but then we get Rockjaw's sacrifice,
Yeah.
which he goes out like a. They close the chapter by calling him a perilous hare. That is an understatement.
Yeah.
This is a guy that takes a spear into his side, and this happens while he's protecting Midge, and then holds off a larger force by just shooting arrows at first, then rips the spear out of his own body and then charges at them and leaps at them while screaming war cries.
Yep.
Rockjaw is amazing.
And this is the World War I influence coming back in again. I'm trying to compose my thoughts here because it's just there's all these little pieces, but you'll hear stories of various soldiers from both World War I and World War II who did some incredibly brave, almost foolhardy things that worked out in their favor. Like the guy that, while I think he was wounded or something, and he had an empty gun, no bullets, managed to convince an entire regiment of German soldiers to surrender.
Wow.
Whoa.
And it's like, yeah, crazy things like that. So I can't help but think it's accounts like that that influenced Rockjaw's heroic sacrifice here.
And we get good stuff from the other three too, where Fordun is being very practical. Like obviously he has no emotional attachment to Rockjaw, so he's the one to call the obvious of, look, he doesn't want our help. This is what he's chosen to do. We need to get the heck out of here so he doesn't die in vain.
Yeah, and I think I was kind of wondering earlier in the book what the purpose of having him there was. I think the purpose of having him there was if he wasn't there, I think Tammo and Midge would have also been killed because they didn't want to leave their friend.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is you have Tammo, who is basically following Midge's lead at this point because Midge is the ranking officer and also is inexperienced and wants to try to save everybody. And Midge has that emotional attachment to Rockjaw and doesn't want to just leave him to die.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we move on, and just to get on this, we get Lady Craig of Rose Eyes waking up. She's like, "Well, good morning. I was dreaming about the perilous hare going down.
And I screamed Eulelio with him.
Oh, I'm sure it's not that.
Hashtag Badger Vision Ex Machina.
I'm wondering if Martin was trying to send her a message like, by the way, you need to, stop wandering off and almost getting yourself killed. We need you over here. And I do like seeing a more level-headed Krega during this part and we get another moment where she connects with Deodara a little bit.
Why am I hungry? You haven't eaten in 2 days. Oh.
That explains it.
I feel well rested, though. That's because you've been asleep for those 2 days. Oh.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And we then get Clubbrush and Krega giving 2 different speeches to the team, like to the entire force that's gone with them, which it does mention this is the first time Krega has actually addressed all the hairs.
Yes, bad form.
Yeah. And Clubbrush is very good because he handles this exactly like their drill sergeant needs to, which is we're going into enemy territory, keep quiet, no more, we're not going to have any more cooking fires. We're not going to be stopping. And you younger hairs, we know this is your first time out, but we're sorry, you need to grow up right now. And he mentions like Shangle Widepad, like you veterans, you need to look after them. And meanwhile, Krega is like, we're going to fight vermin. We're going to kill them. Do not take them lightly. Now let's move out.
Oh, and no marching songs,
Mm-hmm.
war cries, or campfires. And Trabek's just like, he starts humming to himself and just like officers
Shangle
kind of
glares at him.
Shut it!
And again, just seeing the way that Clubbrush and Krega handle these speeches, we can still see that it's going to be up to Elbrig and Clubbrush and the veterans to make sure the new recruits make it out of this alive. Krega is not going to be of any help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
The
this
long
regard.
patrol hairs.
I don't think it's because she doesn't care. I just think she's so single-minded and focused on her goal that she is incapable of being tactically wise or empathetic in a way.
Yep. I think
Yeah,
that's
the long
Oh, go ahead.
the long patrol hairs getting serious is actually an almost spooky experience. The amount of focus and drive that they give off is just it's intense, and I find it a tad unnerving.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of,
It's just like-
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, that was pretty much it.
Oh.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it's a trope that I really like where it's those moments whenever the character or characters that are usually quote unquote the funny ones, when I like it when they turn serious, that's when you know the story has gotten darker or the story has gotten more serious or you need to take this seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Beware the silly ones.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, Damug is basically been told, hey, boss, yeah, those 2 guys are gone and another troop is gone and so are the 2 guards. And he's just like, I don't have time for this right now. Well, you know what? Just, can you guys not screw up for one day? Just one day, please. And his speech just kind of boils down to kill things.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're like, we can do that. I hope so.
I'm surprised that Damok still took Midge's prophecies as sound advice even after they deserted. It's like, where'd they go? I don't know. Well, guess better go do what they have to say now. Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. I'm sure that'll work out great. No.
Well, I think
Yeah,
he does like we show that he still plays it safe in a little bit because he does send somebody out to make sure that the Woodlanders are there and to get an accurate, semi-accurate count if any of his troops can actually count up to 300 of who's there. So he does confirm in a little bit. So I do like that he's like, okay, I know I've been told this, but I'd rather make sure just in case. And Midge also gave him a good reason to not just take over Redwall while the warriors are out, which is hey, look, yeah, you could take it over, but then you're going to have to deal with groups of freedom fighters for like the next 50 seasons. And we all know what happened the last time a group of freedom fighters were out in the middle of Mossflower.
Oh, what's the chance of it?
Cozier.
What's the
Actually, no, we
chance?
don't know because nobody reads history anymore in this
Yeah.
franchise.
I mean, Redwall may have a reputation for, hey, don't invade if you don't want to die horribly. But, yeah, some vermin don't care about history.
Mhm.
Some Redwallers don't keep good enough records either. But, another story.
Well, no, they keep the records, they just don't read them.
Oh.
Oh.
Well, the records are kept, they're just kept in the wrong places.
Sorry.
Oh.
I'm so sorry, Matthias.
Like I said, at least they keep them and they're not like burning them for heat.
Ah!
So they're not burning them for heat.
Oh, no, the visual, it just, evil.
That's what Viola would do. She'd panic, be like, "It's cold out, burn the records." Meanwhile, back in the underground,
Hey, how do we get out of here?
let's climb. And then they find weird, creepy frogs that eat other frogs and fishes and gross.
Yeah.
There's-
Apparently,
and
somehow there's still life in this underground swamp.
They must reproduce
There's-
very quickly.
Just imagine the frog sitting there, like the Budweiser frogs. Sor, bean, sor, bean, and then another one eats them. Verdoga.
At least the ever-present dungeon torches are justified here, unlike Skyrim, Tomb Raider, and every other piece of media that does this. It's like, this was the entrance to the actual cellars, so of course they would leave some torches there.
Yep. And I really like how Diggum recognizes the original tunnels dug by the moles in Mossflower. Where he's like,
Yeah.
Yep. And you know what? Old Dinny would be proud.
He would
Yeah.
stand on my tunnel.
Hashtag Chekhov's mole tunnel.
Yep. Meanwhile, back in Redwall, they're all like, "Where is everybody?" And somebody makes these. I think Gerbil. Yeah, Gerbil is the one's like, maybe they went underground, and Viola's like, "No, they wouldn't do that."
Who
Yeah.
cares? I have the power now.
Viola denies Tansy's true course of action because it's something that she herself could not imagine doing. So it's that inability to see past herself and put herself in somebody else's proverbial sandals that makes me just, I can't stand her.
Doesn't exactly make it
But-
for a good doctor.
No.
But at
she's like, she's the hypochondriac. That's like somebody comes in, my paw hurts. You have dry ditch fever.
At least she ends up slipping on some soup, swiftly shaming self-importance soundly.
Yeah, we get like the end of this is like a Three Stooges slapstick comedy where stuff goes flying, she slips and falls, and everyone's just like, ugh. And then the owls wake up and somebody gets bitten in the ear, and then a cream pie flies in and hits somebody in the face, I guess.
At least Arvin's uselessness is kind of like, well, it's bland, but we kind of get past it. Her uselessness borders on being malicious. It's like,
Yeah.
please stop. Please stop all the things.
Yep. And meanwhile, back with apparently all the competent people are underground, which says something since they went down there without any plans, without telling anybody. Shad and Diggum show that they have good heads on their shoulders and like physical strength to back it up. And throughout everything, Tansy is keeping a cool head. Like they're trapped underground. They have no food. They have no water. They don't know which way is up, but she's not losing her cool. Like the one part where you could tell it kind of shakes her a little bit is when they get to that point where they have to swing over the giant pit of doom, and she just kind of quietly clutches the chain and is like, "Don't fall, don't fall, don't fall."
The Indiana Jones is strong with this one.
Frogs. Why did it have to be frogs?
I hate frogs.
And I like her encouragement to Buddy, where he's like, I don't know if I can swing or get enough running speed. And she's like, just pretend 20 hungry hares want you to make them food. And he swings over going, get your own dinner!
Maybe they should have swung over using the buddy system.
Dun, 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 dun.
I was gonna say, and Buddy's a little greedy boy, and he is hoarding too much treasure and sinks down into the swamp.
And he doesn't make it. He slides down into the goop. And Shad, meanwhile, just shows how awesome he is. He dives in and saves Buddy by himself and drags him back out.
Yep.
And as they're going through a tunnel, they find a snake, and Shad's like, all right, I'll handle this. Wraps the snake up in his tunic and beats it senseless and throws it into a corner.
Snake!
Because he's awesome.
Snake!
Yeah. See, if it was Arvin would be like, oh no, what do we do?
Well, I actually wrote, I feel if Arvin had been put here, it would have been a good chance to show why he's the Abbey warrior.
Yes, but when Slowy got attacked by the eel, he's just like, oh no, what do we do? And he just stands there.
I retract my previous comment. I will say, I kind of feel like this underground adventure sticks out a little bit because it's 2 chapters in a row where we don't see the rest of everything going on.
Mhm.
And I think maybe it's just kind of taking focus off everything else. But on the other hand, I think that's the point of it. It's supposed to be a fun little distraction before we get to the heavy stuff.
Yep, because there definitely is heavy stuff coming.
Oh yeah. But yep, they climb and make it out. And
Hey, we're
appar-
sunlight. Yay!
or moonlight. And Buddy starts glowing. And now he's a ghost.
Woo-hoo!
Huh. Why am I glowing? Oh well.
And so he goes into the Abbey kitchens and finds Mother Buskell and goes, I need food. Woo!
And then Rosano's just cracking up like, haha.
Yeah.
Not. Wait. If he's pointing at Buddy and saying nut, does that mean he wants a nutty buddy? Drumstick? Turtle? Huh?
Oh man, that was terrible.
You're welcome.
I think Matthias has told more bad puns than I have so far in this episode.
Yes.
You may
Yes,
be
he
right,
has.
sir.
I'm slacking. So yeah, and so Buskell comes out with all the food and sees Tansy, and Tansy's like, we're home. And she's like, where were you? We were underground. Why didn't you try looking there? And Buskell's like, I'm gonna hold this over Viola's head for the rest of her life.
Sorry, I just sneezed. I couldn't hold it back. I was like, no, I gotta hit mute, and then I just sneezed.
Oh, that's all right.
Wow, that was fun.
It's nothing to sneeze at.
Want to try for round 2?
No, thank you.
Oh, snot again.
Oh no, he's catching up.
I mean, I could offer you some antihistamine money. It's nothing to be sneezed at.
Oh no.
Moving on.
Allergies. Anyway, moving on back to meanwhile, back at the plot. we get them setting up defenses for the ridge, and I like that too, where they're not just like, okay, we can just hold this spot. Like, no, let's get some boulders, let's get some rocks. Oh look, there's a giant tree branch we can roll down at them later. Bring that up here too. And speaking of Arvin not really doing anything, I love how the book has to constantly remind us that Arvin is the champion of Redwall because nothing he's done will do that. Because it says,
In fact,
like,
he's
because he goes to sit down next to Pask, and it just says Arvin, the champion of Redwall.
Yes.
yeah, he's so terrible that the Sword of Martin itself is better at cheering up others than he is.
You're not
The
wrong.
I mean,
The
it's on his
inanimate
business cards.
The inanimate sword has more character than him. How does that work?
Oh God. Yeah, because he says to Pask, like, look, my sword can make young hares happy. Hey, look, it's pointing at your boyfriend.
It's not my boyfriend, although I wouldn't
And
mind
she's
that.
like, the sword found my boyfriend. And he's like, but I was holding the sword. This thing holding the sword found my boyfriend. It's
Yay, Tamo's back. And the first thing Pass does to him is hold him at arm's length and says, bathe.
No, but yeah, Tamo has to report Rockjaw's death. And we can just see from his reaction where Paragord is fighting tears and is obviously a little choked up and says, like, we're going to make them pay for this. You can tell they served together for a long time. So I just like little touches with that. Like, they don't have to say it. And, like, we can just infer it from the reaction.
Now, here's a sobering thought. Tamo has seen less than half a dozen skirmishes, and here he is gearing up to fight an actual battle.
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of sad that he has more fighting experience, like legitimate, I've fought other creatures, than some of the Long Patrol hares that we'll be seeing coming up in a couple chapters.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they might have more training, but he wins out on the practical side.
Yeah. Oh, I thought
Kind
you were
of
gonna
like
s-
how,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
kind of like how spending 2 weeks on the front lines of World War I would make you a completely different person than the raw recruit showing up on day 15.
Mm.
I don't know if that's intentional, but it works really well.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say he has more actual combat experience than Arvin does.
Well, I mean, probably that too.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point where Tamo has essentially been getting trial by fire with all of his actual training. And we get to see like how he has definitely grown and changed since the beginning of the book. And we, like I said earlier, we go back. So we go to Damug, where he's making sure that his army is placed properly, where he knows like what he's up against, because he knows like, okay, we had basically greater numbers when we attacked Salamandastron, and we got annihilated. So even though there's fewer of them, let's make sure we don't underestimate them and just charge forward like idiots.
Even though that's eventually what he's going to do.
Well, he does,
Yeah.
he does surround them. He doesn't at least put his entire army like forward. He at least tries to surround them and use some strategy. And also, let's be fair, he does not care about his individual soldiers.
Oh, no, of course not. There is a great little cutscene. Oh, look at me. I'm talking in video game terms. But we see it.
The
You see a
SMB
nice
starts
little
and-
Can I skip the cutscene? X. It's not working. No, it's unskippable. But we see this great little scene where a bunch of the fighters, while waiting for Damug's army to show up, put up a target and a leaf at the center and are challenging each other to hit dead center to win this silk ribbon. And Tamo comes up and throws his dirk from 3 paces farther than everyone else and hits dead center the mark that Gergen made with his axe when he hit it square in the center. And Gergen asks him, "Hey, how'd you learn to throw a blade like that?" And he was like, "Oh, I had this wonderful teacher, obviously Rusa, and it came to me." Nowhere in the book does it show her actually teaching him anything. It mentions, she says to him how he should learn to throw his blade, but we never see her giving him any sort of lessons or pointers or anything. And I suspect Brian capitalized on this golden opportunity he wrote for himself, but he didn't go back and retroactively change anything.
Yeah.
It draws Tamo and Pask closer together because he ends up giving her the ribbon and then it comes back as a minor plot point. But it's like, you know what? You can't just use Chekhov's gun if you don't load the bullet, and you can't load the bullet unless you were given the bullet to begin with.
True. Yeah, I mean, we did see that he did have some good aim earlier when he, almost launched a spear right through Wrinkle's gut. But yeah, that's a good point. She brings it, but she did teach him like a couple things about like staying silent and scoping out the area and things like that. But yeah, she never did. We never actually saw her show him how to throw the dirk.
Yeah, and that annoys me. I don't know why it annoys me, but it does.
No.
I thought about that too, and I thought maybe it's just something off screen that we didn't see, but at the same time, why couldn't we have seen just a couple scenes of her going, "No, you did it wrong. Do it again."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like though where Paragord and Midge encourage him, and Paragord like they congratulate him when he wins, saying like throwing like a true long patrol hare. And I think they both saw that he needed to loosen up a little bit before the actual final battle. Meanwhile, Krega has a good leadership moment where she understand, she knows they're going to enemy territory and sends off 2 runners or listens to what 2 runners have to tell her, and she starts like planning strategies to to take on the enemy. Like, okay, we're not just going to rush in like idiots. And we also get good moments with Algador and Deodar, who throughout the whole book we've seen them as basically kind of like if Tammo had been trained in Salamandastron, where we know they're both recruits, but they're showing common sense and taking initiative when they need to.
Also get a moment after this where apparently the Badger Babe Rusano is force sensitive because he's dreaming. And all these, and we actually get more than just Martin mentioned for once.
Mariel!
Matthias and his son.
Yeah. Gonf gets mentioned. Yeah.
He's already married.
Yeah. Speak the good thing I do.
They mentioned, hey, there's a bunch of badgers. Like, hey, that's Brocktree.
Yeah.
We haven't seen. We've already read your book, but yours was next to come out. Boar, Sunplace, Earthclaw,
Earthwhite. I think Earthclaw was their father. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's Earthstripe? Oh.
I don't know if he'd be the one to help along somebody called the Wise, honestly.
Yeah, point taken.
Yeah.
I think their father was actually Earthhound.
Oh, yeah, you're right. So maybe
I believe
Earthclaw is.
Is that
Earthclaw, I think, is a
grandma?
mole.
Yeah, I was gonna say Earthhound's a mole in Mossflower.
To the internet.
I'm a badger. Also, I just gotta point out,
no,
there's a lot of
Earthclaw-
M names.
Earthclaw was the grandfather of Earthstripe and Earthwhite.
Okay.
So it was
I think he was also a mole though.
yeah, that sounds right.
There's a mole named Earthclaw, I swear, in Mossflower.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Earthclaw's like, that's my cousin.
but
Urgh.
but Rusno's basically he also gets to see Rockjaw and say goodbye. But basically Rusno is somehow precognitive here, and he gets to see everybody who gets to live and die, and he wakes up like it's from a nightmare. So, like I said, he's a freaking Jedi.
Strong with the Force, this one is. Yes.
Poor little guy though. He has no idea what he doesn't have the words to explain, because if he just goes nut 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 nut, that says nothing about what this dream was about. So
Yeah.
he just cries. Poor thing.
Yeah.
Unless he starts saying nut in like Morse code or something. I don't know.
Oh, there you go.
Nut. Yeah. Then we get chapter 52, which
It
is
shows a rare vermin charge.
yep.
I mean, I can remember other books we had a long patrol charge.
Mhm.
And they look like freaking Spartans, but
This is Salamandastron. This whole section is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Where we get the build up of everyone, both sides sitting there and waiting. We also get Damug actually showing a little bit more, more cleverness, where as the Redwallers were resting, they realized that he got a step over them and is almost already in position. And we have both sides working to outwit and outfight each other once the battle actually commences. We get to see like the different side, like both sides, like why these creatures are fighting. With the Red Wallers and Mossflower inhabitants, it's like we need to defend our homes, and Damog is like, I can conquer this. This will all be mine soon.
Hmm.
And we get the opening of the battle with Damog sending only half of his force up, and it points out that about 60 of his, like a little over 60 of his troops were killed, and maybe about half of that were the Red Wallers. And it kind of works out the way he expected, but he's also surprised at the ferocity that they're fighting back with.
Hmm.
Mm.
And when things go to a lull, we get Perigord being amazing again, where Damog wants to parlay with him, and he's like, "What do you want?" Just like, bring it. And Damog says to him, like, "You can surrender," and Perigord, "No, I'm not surrendering. I'm going to kill you myself."
Oh, you want to surrender? Okay, your surrender's accepted.
Yeah, pretty much. And yeah, so we also have Henbit the rat, or Ferret, whatever the heck he was.
Yeah, that was a
Pops
new
up.
one.
Yep, he pops up, is about to throw a javelin, and I like how he
Aha!
describes it. He just kind of drops it and falls back over with an arrow in him, and Rub-a-Dub's like, hee 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 hee.
Ah,
Yeah.
And that kicks things off again, and we just get great moments. It's amazing with this huge battle, we get the little moments with the characters that we've gotten to know throughout the book. Like
Yep.
Gurgen Spearback getting hit in the shoulder with an arrow and going, I don't care.
one more spike. What do I care?
Yeah, I do like how he says, it's a great displeasure to be shot, though.
Yeah. And I just like, kind of like how this kind of startles Tamo. Like they're just talking, and all of a sudden he cries out in pain. And Tamo's like, "Oh, you've been hit." Like you can totally tell this is kind of his first big battle. And he's like, "Oh God."
Ain't got time to bleed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gurgen is definitely one of those characters. Like, I can't show weakness, and I don't want to show weakness either.
Hmm.
And yeah, as the battle continues, finally they kind of use what's basically their secret weapon, which is this giant log. We're lighting it on fire and then rolling it down at them.
At night. So
Yep.
it's not only, hey, does that look like a fiery log rolling towards us? Well, yes, it does. Ah!
Whoosh!
It's also
kind of-
when if you have a massive source of light in the middle of the night like this, it's gonna blind you. If
Yeah, it kind of
even if you're not-
backfires on them a
Yeah,
little bit.
a little bit.
Yeah.
No pun intended. I said backfires.
No, that's accurate.
Yeah. And we do show that both sides kind of stop for a second once that happens. Like, oh, shoot, that was a lot.
Yep.
I mean, it was a pretty bright idea.
Just and then just off screen, off stage, whatever you want to call it, Krega and the Wrong Patrol can see the flare of the log, and they're like, "Huh, well, we should probably get over there." And Krega's just like, "Well, I'm on my way, guys. You guys catch up." And
Club
Rush is
Rush.
he's like, hell no, you are not doing that."
He stands in front of her and draws his sword and goes, look, I know you could snuff me out like a candle, but I'm not letting you charge forward and getting all of these recruits killed.
And they even telegraph it as saying, years later, it'll be marked as the only time a hare has stood up to their badger ruler. And it's like, okay, this is pretty epic.
I think I can remember a few times hares have bent the orders or have told Badger Lords to say, "Hey, stupid, sit down for a second."
Yeah.
Well, remember, they're not always the best at recounting history.
True.
Right, but I
But
mean, this is more like a direct no, though. This is like a
Oh,
nope,
yeah.
we're not doing what you just said we're gonna do.
Yeah, like
Yep.
we've definitely had them like give like with Sunflash. I know people have stood up, like people kind of stood up to him a little bit, but also Sunflash had no idea what the heck he was doing as a leader. And with Earthstripe, also they kind of had to keep him calm at times. But yeah, Club Rush is like, I'll fight you. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm not letting you do this no matter what.
The line is, it would be said in later seasons that this was the first time a Hare openly disobeyed a Badger ruler. So the key word
Openly.
here being openly, yeah.
Yep.
So it's not that, yeah, we're not really going to obey that to the full letter or the full spirit. We're just going to do it to the letter and nothing more. This is a, no, we're not doing that because that is a terrible idea. You're making a terrible decision.
Yep.
No.
And Clubbrush isn't even the ranking officer. Elbrig is above him. So like the fact that the guy who's not even in like complete command is doing this really says something. And it shows his true colors of, yeah, he's going to push the recruits. He's going to do like the tough, gruff sergeant thing, but he truly cares about them and he's not going to let them go into battle like half-cocked and get themselves killed.
Yeah, and I just love this because he loves those kids. Like,
Yep.
and he would do anything in his power to protect them as much as he can.
Yeah, it shows Krega is a strong warrior. She is not a very good leader.
No. But Red Walrus, meanwhile, are still dealing with the blindness that came from the log, and to find that Damog wasn't slow in responding.
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
He basically sends up to Ridge. He sends two forces as a pincer movement, and yeah, we lose Morio in this element.
Yep. And yeah, this shows why they chose this position and why they're trying to keep everything at long range, because they stood no chance going head to head with this army.
Mm-hmm.
Even with all the casualties that Damog's army has already taken, they're still outnumbering this group
By a lot.
Oh yeah. And Gergen, his words of basically he and Paragord are back to back. He says, now all that's left is we take as many as we can with us.
Yep.
And
Final charge.
Yep. And it's brave, but he's also it's very true. And when Krega is told like, hey, this is what's going on, now I'm totally for her charging in because that's what's needed. It's there's a force about to get wiped out there. We need to go to their rescue. Meanwhile, I like the bit of Damog's army is like, okay, we have them at the ropes, but they're fighting back very fiercely. Let's not mess with them directly so we can enjoy the spoils of war afterwards. Meanwhile, Bluggatch is like, I'm the toughest there is. Come on and fight me. And Gergen goes, okay.
Hey, does this look like a hammer to you?
I like the line is like, he swung his club once. Just once.
Just, you don't mess with Gergen's spearback.
Nope.
And Damog, by the way, at one point he does tell his troops, like, hey, stop killing. I want prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't go over very well.
No.
Well, it goes fine. And, well, he doesn't realize that Krega's forces are coming. And then he even sees Paragord, who's being held. It takes 4 vermin to hold him back, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you spoke to me very rudely. And Paragord's like, if you give me my sword back, I'll stab you too. Because Paragord still has no fear. And I would have loved to have seen a one-on fight between him and Damog.
Oh, yeah. Paragord outright says, hey, give me back my saber and I will fight you one-on-one. Let's have at it.
Yep.
And Damog's like, nah, I'm good. Hey, what's that deep thudding and coming towards me?
Why are my troops suddenly flying through the air?
And this is the moment in the story where the villain, thinking they've won, is about to execute a main character. But seeing as a main character is typically important enough to need to stay alive, the villain will now encounter the beatdown they have deserved all story long. Or to put it more simply, bring it.
Yep. Basically, Deus Ex Krega.
Yeah, he turns around and is like, oh, that's Krega. Oh, dear.
Yep.
Oh,
and
dear.
Unfortunately, even though Krega has a gigantic weapon that gives her plenty of range that she could use to probably just spear Damog and, then catapult him through the forest, she decides to throw it to the side and grab him around the neck while he's still wielding his sword.
No. She sees the first blade with both paws and teeth.
Oh, I didn't see the teeth part.
Oh yeah.
So she's taking a bite out of
Nom, nom,
Clem.
nom, 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 nom.
So and then while she's doing this, she shouts. So I got to imagine it sounds like "Sport of good red turd, evil vigorous kin, come to me."
Nom, nom.
Right. Oh man. Yeah, I never oh geez. Oh wow, yeah, I never noticed the teeth part before. Holy crap.
Rawr.
Yikes. And
Dammit gives Earthly screech, and then Krega gives him a nice big hug,
Yep.
like Brock 3 did with Ungat.
this is one of Kraga's patented neck hugs.
Yep.
And the battle doesn't stop here though. Like
Oh, no.
normally when, in some of the other books, like when the main leader is taken out, that's usually signaling the end of the battle, much like in like Martin the Warrior or Redwall, things like that. No, there's still a huge battle going on because there are two big armies still needing to fight each other.
Mhm.
And the battle gets even fiercer because the Redwallers and Mossflower inhabitants are like, there's help. We need to keep fighting back. And Logalog and his shrews not only fight the Rapscallions with like ferocity, the Rapscallions start running from them.
Yep.
Run
And-
away! Run away!
And Skipper continues to show how awesome he is by just diving at people and going, "Ah!" beating people with his loaded sling.
And what is Arvin doing?
Things.
I know he got hit in the side by an arrow earlier.
Okay.
He literally does nothing this entire battle, does
I
he?
presume he's fighting, but we're never told what he's doing.
Yeah.
The one time we could have,
He's
seen-
supervising. He's just directing from the back.
that's you're doing well over there, man. Skipper, that's pretty cool. You bashed that guy over the head with a rock. That was neat. And we get a moment with Rub-a-Dub where we think he's gone, but then Twayblade's like, he's fine, and kicks him in the foot, and he's like, bug, dug, dug.
Yep.
Hey, does he have more brain damage? Oh no, he's fine. He's
I'm
fine.
glad he's okay. Oh. And Trowbags, deciding to follow Kraga's example, goes, I can take on the army by myself. There's 4 guys. But again, it really shows he had no idea what he was getting into.
Mhm.
And I'm glad he lives through this so he can learn from it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he's still wounded.
True. And then, God, just really heart-wrenching with Fergal and Reeve.
Mhm.
With Fergal's final words of like, and Clubrush's reaction saying just like, I hope you've gone to a better place than this blood-strewn ridge.
Yeah, just like crying openly.
Oh,
Ugh.
like this is what Clubbrush, he knew he was going to see this, but it doesn't make it any easier. And just having Fergal die in his arms too.
Hmm. Yeah, I read a book once about people that were in a war and like they kept finding out about other people who had died and like they were saying like I wish this would get easier, but like every time someone dies that I know the name that's familiar to me, it's just like another jolt in my stomach. It's another like sick feeling. Like it never gets any easier.
When they win, like they do defeat Damog's horde, but there's no big cheer at the end either.
Oh no, like when the owl comes up and he's like, I assume that by all the vermin corpses around you won. And the voice actor's just like, we won. Just like deadpan, like, yep.
Mm-hmm. And Tamo's response to Paragord when he asks if he's all right is,
Oh, I know.
where he just says, this whole thing, I feel like, Matthias, you've mentioned repeatedly, like there are allusions to World War One. This feels like something a real person would have said. Like just-
Survivor's guilt. Yeah.
like Survivor's Guild
yeah.
and edited for Redwall, where he replies, no, I'm not all right, Saw. I've seen death. I've been in a battle. I've slain other creatures, seen friends cut down before my eyes. And all I can think of is, thank the fates I'm not dead. Though the way I feel right now, I don't know if I want to go on living.
Mhm.
And Paragord's reply, that one I don't have written down, but like is equally as powerful, where he says like, I understand how you feel, but think of it this way. You have, by doing this, by these sacrifices and by the sacrifices of many others, the peaceful creatures and Dibbins in Redwall will never know of this bloodshed. They will never know hardship. they can continue to enjoy their lives because of the sacrifices we have made.
And I love Pask's
I-
line too.
Well, I have both of them right here if you want me to
Oh,
read
sure.
them.
Go for it.
Okay. The major sat down beside him. I know what you mean, young'un, but think for a moment. Think of the babes at Redwall and the oldsters. Think of all the families, like your own, who will never be frightened or harmed by the bad ones we fought against. You've done nothing to be ashamed of. The colonel and your mother would be proud to know that they had a son like you. What do you
Aw.
say, Pask? Tell this perilous feller. Pask Valerian paused from her salves and dressings, capturing Tamo with her soft voice and gentle smile. She pointed skyward. I don't have to tell you anything, Tam. Just look up. And they see the golden rays of dawn peeking over the battlefield.
Yeah,
That's
I thought
pretty.
it was just beautiful.
We
Yeah.
also get Pask finding where Craig landed.
Yep.
Yep.
And this is kind of a dark scene because she's like, "Oh, this is bad." She's alive, but she took a lot of damage to her face
And
and
eyes.
head and eyes,
Yep.
and she's just like, "Yeah, we need to get her to Redwall." But even in that, and then this chapter begins like, we pretty much knew that she was gonna be blind even after she healed up.
Yeah. And yeah, it kind of reminds me of the way Martin the Warrior handled its like epilogue and ending, where it didn't end with the big celebration, cheerful. Like in the very first book, obviously it ends with Abbot Mortimer dying, but then we get the like recorder entry right after saying like, oh, everything is good now. We have all these great things going on, where this one, it takes a little time to really start to get to the positive, but still mixes in things like they've returned to what they've now dubbed the Ridge of 1,000,
Hmm.
where they put up a memorial for all the creatures that died there, where they even took the time to bury the rapscallions.
Hmm.
And
No, they didn't so much bury them as dump their corpses in the gorge that Craig and the Hares took to get their way there.
okay.
They
Well,
buried all of their friends and comrades up on
Mhm.
top of the ridge.
Yeah, like I remember, like I've mentioned it before, I like to listen to music when I read these. And the first time I read this book, when I got to this point, I was used to it being happy. And so I started listening to like celebration type stuff. And then I realized what I was reading and went, no, this is not what I need to be listening to right now.
Yeah.
Just because I was so used to that's how, used to the books going that way.
Mhm.
And I think, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I really like how they handle this, and that we get some cheer in this ending, but we also show war is a terrible thing, and just because it's over doesn't mean the pain from it is just going to stop.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We do get in the first bit of epilogue, we get Cracklin, who is recorder, and she basically follows up what we have to know. We already said, they bury their loved ones, and they, give the vermin corpses the boot into the gorge. So.
Yep.
And they call back to Martin's words when he was possessing Tamo about, hey, one day a Badger will see, but the Badger will never see Redwall, confirming, hey, our new Badger mom, Craiga, is blind. So,
Yep.
And however, she's fallen in love with Rossano, and now they're all happy. Yay!
Yes.
Yeah.
The
I
only
like that.
thing that kind of, and this is probably just me being extra nitpicky, but like the thing where it said like he acted as her eyes, sure, that's cute in a way, but like you don't want to rely on a kid to be the adult.
About to say a toddler. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen, like, to get super serious for a moment, I've seen the psychological impact that can have on kids. So I have made sure that my niece and nephew, like, they will never, like, when we were walking in the mall one time, my niece was trying to tell me, like, when obstacles were coming, I'm like, honey, this is what I have the dog for. This is what I have the white cane for. You don't need to tell me that. You can describe things to me in the mall as we pass, because I'm not going to be able to see them. You can describe things to me, but I don't need help walking. I'm an adult. You're a child. Like, Yeah, so that was the thing. I was like, I should probably bring this up because I realize that it's like a children's book and he doesn't want to get into the super complicated things, but like she can have a good relationship with this kid without him like taking care of her, the adult.
Mhm.
She's got plenty of other adults to help her out.
Yeah, and I mean her depression is super realistic because if you go blind later in life, I don't have experience with this, but I have friends who have, and it's like it's a grieving process because you're losing a part of you, like a big part of you, and you have to kind of adapt to a new way of living. It's not necessarily that your life is going to be miserable and sad from then on, but you have to kind of change sort of how you look at things. That was a pun I didn't mean to make, but there you go. And yeah, just kind of find a new way to adapt, and it's not going to be better or worse. It's just going to be different. You have to kind of get used to that.
Mm-hmm. And I think there is one thing that does, not to in any way downplay what you just said, one thing that slightly justifies how Brian describes it, and talking about seeing, Mother Krega is learning to see more without the use of her sight than most of us can see with two eyes. I think it's implying that over the course of a very short period of time, she quickly developed the senses that she needed to at least be able to get around and be functional. So any dependence on Rusano was only right there at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then she's still, for all intents and purposes, in the prime of her youth.
Mm-hmm.
So she's more than capable of saying, no, I got it from here.
Mhm.
So I think it was more of a just helping her find her footing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and I do like that, like they said, now she doesn't have the blood wrath. So like this sickness that had kind of tormented her was gone.
So calling back briefly to the second fan fiction episode, I did cover that story, Be My Eyes.
Oh yeah.
And this is the moment it comes from. And I went back and read it and I got all emotional all over again.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I do wish we could have seen more fleshed out, maybe, bits talking about their interaction and, seeing him and her interacting in a healthy way. But I also want to see more of her development, realizing as she's recovering that she no longer has this anger within her.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would have been, if this book had come out 20 years later, actually, 20 years later, we would be seeing a whole different way of handling this end scene. There would probably be a more tasteful way of introducing her coming back, reintegrating into society, handling her anger problems in a more healthy way, talking about mental health, probably talking with some of the elders, trying to handle her newfound loss, but her now freedom from this malady that she's experienced her whole life.
This reminds me of one of the it's a very intense story. I will kind of, what's the word, shorten it here, but one of the people that was in training with me, like training blind skills, like, travel and home management and things like that. He was a gang member, and the way he went blind was he got shot in the face by someone.
Ooh.
And he said that like he was on such a bad path, he probably would have ended up dead if he hadn't gone blind and had to kind of change the course of his life. And he got so many opportunities. He met someone, got married, had a kid. Like he totally turned his life around. And he said, yeah, going blind was the best thing that happened to me. And I kind of think maybe that's the same for Krega. Eventually, like she realized, I don't have this killing rage anymore.
Although we do get to see her a few times in the books to come, minor spoilers, where she gets to act a little vicious.
I feel like it, I mean, we'll get to it when we get to Marl Fox, but I feel like it's a different it's more of her being brave and physically defending others rather than going out and trying to massacre an entire army on her own. Like it's definitely the way she fights, the little bit that she fights in Marl Fox and the way it's handled, I think is very different from how she is depicted in this book.
Mama bear versus rabid dog.
Right.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was protecting a child in my
Oh, yeah.
and I said Mile Fox. That's not right. Marl Fox. Um,
Epilogue continues that Greg is basically going to raise him, and then eventually Rossano will go to Salamandastron to be the new Badger Lord. We do find out that that treasure collection was dug up from Kodir and is being melted down and given to all the survivors of the war. We
Yep.
get
I like how everyone gets their own different gemstone.
based on what affiliation you had.
Yep.
So Redwaller's got a ruby, Waterhugs and Otter's a pearl, Shrew's a peridot, and Hare's a blue john. I presume a sapphire variant. Nice soldiery. I've never heard of that. And set in a gold shield attached to the white ribbon, but no one's wearing them right now because they have so many people on hand. Like, hey, you want to help us rebuild our south wall?
Yep.
Well, Paragor did say in any other situation we would totally help out with this.
Yep. And yeah, the Cracklin's record continues like, hey, so Tema and Pask fell in love, and this certainly isn't the quick, unstable relationship that comes from a stressful period. I'm kidding. I'm sure they're going to be happy. But they outright mentioned that, hey, everyone from Camp Tussock comes out to view the wedding, and his parents like him. His mom is still, of course, proud of him, and his dad's like, okay, yeah, you're a Long Patrol warrior. Good for you.
Yep.
Arvin, I don't think is really mentioned at all in this entire epilogue.
He's there that he's overseeing the rebuild.
Okay.
And I
so
think
he's able
in,
to stand in one place and point at things.
And I think he's in the party that takes Rossano to Salamandastron.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
is true.
Mhm.
Yes. Which is the next part of the actual epilogue. Is apparently what is normally the epilogue was chapter 55.
Yeah.
And so we have epilogue 2. And I have to ask a question. How is Paragord still just a major?
Yeah, I don't know.
He refused promotion.
Maybe he went the Picard route, maybe. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I feel like this guy should be like Grand General or whatever the highest rank for Long Patrol is. Like, this is a guy that perfectly went into a losing situation and came out alive and kept a good amount of his, obviously most of his forces were taken out, but made the best of a bad situation and led by example. Like, he wasn't just like this leader in the back, like obviously they said Damog was. He was on the front lines. He was fighting toe to toe with the Vermin forces, with his soldiers. This guy should be promoted to whatever, the highest rank for the Long Patrol, is all I'm saying.
I agree.
Well, perhaps, and this is just speculation on my part, perhaps there is a chain of command that says, we can only promote you in the field this far. You have to be promoted back at Salamandastron, and there, go before like a committee and answer questions. You can only go so high.
My own
Otherwise.
paternal grandfather fought in World War II, and
wow.
eventually was discharged from medical for being wounded. He lost his right arm, but he actually repeatedly had higher officers tell him like, we really want to promote you, but we have too many sergeants. So he never made it past corporal.
Aw.
Yeah, so that makes sense. I just feel like he should get his due. Like, he should get awarded or rewarded, like whatever they need to do, like for what he pulled off. On the plus side, because we found out Tamo is a captain, so apparently they were cool with promoting him. And I do like, though, Garrison Captain Chiva.
Yep.
It
Very
comes
happy
back.
to see that. And I also like how the drill sergeants Targach and Club Rush are buddies.
Yeah. And Eyebright and Paragord as well.
Yep. And Eyebright gets to meet Rossano the Wise, where
Yeah.
he inherited Rusa Nodre's name and her stick as well.
Yeah, how big is this stick? Because there's several different depictions of it, depending on the character who has it. And like Russ, where it has with Russa, it's like kind of a hand stick, like maybe a short staff. And then there's ones with Rusno, who is tall as hell. but
Mhm.
it's like a full-on walking stick for him.
No, I think it's more like a scepter.
Okay.
Because it says, smiling quietly, the badger drew forth from his cloak a short hardwood stick, well used and polished to a dull sheen.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I think it fits him well too. Like if they're saying he's supposed to be the wise, and we eventually see him again in another book, or actually we already saw him in Legend of Luke
Brock.
too. But
No,
it
Lord
fits.
Brocktree.
Yeah, Barclay.
I mean, sorry, Lord Brocktree. Thank you. He is definitely more. I find it interesting. He's more along like the peaceful and wise side, which the last Badger Lord to have a big stick was also on the more peaceful side. Sunflash the Mace.
I do want to say though, I mean they're all waiting for hearing his voice for the first time, and based on what we were doing earlier with Tamo, I know this is like older teen Rusano, but I keep thinking of the voice cracking. I have no need of a blade nor any great weapon.
It is good to visit Salamandastron at last. Do not let my voice distract you from the fact that I am very wise.
You know, as funny as
on
that,
his face and just
as funny as that is, it says in the third to last paragraph in the book, his voice was deep and mellow, so I highly doubt it was cracking.
Oh,
And going by that and his personality,
like, sorry, I had something in my throat.
that's funny. But going by that and the description of his personality, Rusano's basically Mufasa at this point. So I want James Earl Jones to voice him in the theatrical release.
Yes. Everything
Simba.
the Salamandastron touches is ours.
Yes.
but what about Terrorborg, Dad?
You do not go there, son. That is the vermin graveyard. Oh God. So does he have
Well,
like
we
an
already
evil
know he
brother
has
with a scar on his face?
Well, no, he's an orphan, remember? So.
Oh yeah, so he does. Well, we don't know because Earthstripe was thought to be an orphan, but he had a brother.
Well,
Get on it, fanfic writers.
orphans can have siblings. They just can't
Yeah.
have parents.
Yeah.
Get on it, fanfic writers. Who's the siblings of Rusano?
the Badger King.
And why are they evil?
That was a very good book.
One of the better books in a while, actually.
Honestly, I think I forgot how good this book was. Like this,
Agreed.
like I clearly remember how much I loved Martin the Warrior and Mossflower, and some of the others that we've covered. But wow, like just especially reading it for this podcast, like going into the darker aspects of war, of combat in this book that not many of the other books really even touch upon. And there's very little I can say about this book that I didn't think was good. Like I feel like Arvin kind of deserved more than he got.
Yeah, he was done an injustice.
Yeah, like I know we made fun of him plenty, but I feel like he deserved better.
Yeah.
And while I think the Underground Adventure could have been shifted around a little bit, otherwise this was fantastic. Tamo is a great protagonist and even a partial proxy for the reader where we get to learn about how things work along with him. And I can't say enough good things about Paragord. He is he's one of the best hairs, one of the greatest commanders that we've seen. And almost every character serves a good purpose, except Pellet. And there's like a great variety of characters in it. And when these main characters die, it feels like a stab in the gut. Like
It
rereading
does.
it this time, I got misty-eyed when I read Rockjaw, like through where
Oh, yeah.
Rockjaw died.
And Fergale, really, like every time, it's just like, and
yeah.
Club Rush's reaction too. And
Yeah.
also, it was really good to see Tansy and Cracklin again.
Yeah,
They're so much fun.
Yep, and it shows that like they both had that little bit of like what made them, what their characters were in Pearls of Lutra, but we can also see like how much they've grown over time.
Hmm.
Whereas I feel like Viola has gone back a few steps at times, where I feel like she was a little bit more gung ho and adventurous in Pearls of Lutra, but I can see that going away a little bit as she got older. But I know I felt like after Pearls of Lutra, she would have been less whiny.
One would hope.
Yeah,
Well,
and I like the owls too.
yeah.
Just yeah, it's a great cast for this book.
Oh, yeah, we didn't mention the owl chicks.
The owl
It's,
chicks,
uh,
Nutwing, Nutclaw, and
Nutbeak,
Beak.
I believe.
Yep.
And because nut is the only word they said for a full season, that becomes their names.
Yep.
Yes.
I think they said like they choose their own names at one
Mhm.
point, so
Mhm.
that was cute.
Not
Yeah. Like this book definitely pulled off what is something very difficult, which is having a serious and at times very dark story, but also having those cute and fun and like kind of like old-fashioned adventure moments to break it up a little bit at times. And when it needed
Yeah.
to take itself seriously, it took itself very seriously.
Did we mention Tammo got a serious wound?
No, we didn't.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
he
just
took.
that occurred to me.
Yeah, he took. It was like a javelin or a spear to his leg, right?
Yep, and then Pask was like, I really like kind of the way she handled this. She's like, well, I got this ribbon here. Good job, you won it for me.
Yep. And yeah, they said that he had like almost permanent limp for the rest of his life. But I like the comment that Cracklin said he made was like, I didn't plan on becoming a galloper anyway.
Yep.
So just the fact that he learned to kind of laugh off that type of injury, I think speaks volumes to his growth as a character.
Yeah, and I think Russa would be proud of him.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
And I was very glad in the recorder chapter where they talk about, like they say that his parents were both very proud of him and that his father said he became a great Long Patrol warrior.
Hmm.
So yeah, this book was amazing, and
Yep.
I definitely want to go back to this book again sometime. Like I will definitely reread this one anytime. I mean, well, not if I want something with a very happy ending, but
Hey, it's not
is-
the unhappy.
This is bittersweet.
this is
Yeah.
true. It's not like the ending of Martin the Warrior where you're left in tears
Yes.
completely. But yeah, like I said, I think I forgotten how good this book was, or maybe I never realized how excellent this was until now.
All right.
well then.
That just leaves. Unless
Well-
you had something else to add, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know I've said a lot over the past 2 episodes about all the influences from World War One, but if anybody wanted to do further research and really educate themselves on the topics of World War One, best thing I can recommend is check out the podcast Hardcore History by Dan Carlin. He has a 6-part series on World War One, Blueprint for Armageddon. Word of caution, these are very long, like 3 hours minimum. The longest is almost 4.5 hours.
Nice.
So there's a lot to go on. It's over 24 hours of audio of nothing but talking about World War One. It is also extremely brutally violent. So user listener, be warned, because it comes with the territory.
Not for Dibbins.
So, not for Dibbins. Unless your Dibbin happens to be a super hardcore Dibbin, in which case, good for you, Dibbin. But I listened to all 6 parts last year, and most of my recent knowledge of World War One comes from that experience. And let me tell you, it is some very hard to digest concepts. Understanding the hardships that people went through, but it very strongly informed my understanding of the topic, which helped me understand this book all the more. So if you are not a Dibbin, I very much recommend checking out Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, Blueprint for Armageddon. at least check out the first episode, see if it's for you. That's it's only a little over 3 hours long. So if you have a long car ride, going to walk somewhere, maybe just doing laundry, check it out.
Because this is the longest episode so far.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Should probably tell people where they can find us. So, you can find us at recorderonthewall.com as our primary website. We are on Apple Podcasts, available through iTunes. We are on Google Play Podcasts. We are on Spotify. Our primary contact is our Twitter at ROTWPOD. And you can also email us, rotwpod@gmail.com. We love hearing from fans on the Are Eulalia subreddit, as well as the Redwall forums. Also love reviews. And if you leave your name attached to a review, we'll mention it on air. I miss anything?
And love you forever.
Yes, we will. I miss anything?
No, that's it. So, yep. Next time we'll be taking on book 1 of Marl Fox.
Woohoo!
But,
Yes.
Yep. So until next time, I'm Jeremy.
I'm Pete.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Matthias.
And Drew went away.
Yep.
Aw.
Pour one out for Drew. We had to duck out early, unfortunately.
Don't waste
Well-
perfectly good October ale.
We'll see you next time,
Strawberry
folks.
cordial.
No.